friends, hey family, hey loved ones, hey fools. How y'all doing? Well, this is part two of Alchemy in Action, caring for myself, forgiving myself. Yeah, knowing myself. And I was just sharing about Pisces, a little bit about Pisces, because Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. And it is a beginning and an ending that we're going through at this time. And we're still in that new moon window that was in Pisces. Today we're still in that window, and then we're going to be moving into Aries in the next few days. So I figured, how perfect is that? Let's just read a little bit about Pisces. And then I didn't realize like how perfect it was for what I'm actually experiencing right now. And like just couldn't have even like made this shit up or planned it even better than allowing it to unfold the way that it just does. So yeah, just learning how to let go instead of trying to manage all of it and just allow the process to unfold. So it is like a lot of processing, and it's been about the process. Yeah, and all of that. So I did, want to continue a little bit about like the astrology, and I just thought that was so funny. Like Pisces sounds a lot more like me than like even my sun sign does. My sun sign of Leo was born August 22nd, so I'm on the cusp of Leo and Virgo. So I always thought Virgo fit me a little bit more because of I always love to overanalyze things and order things and organize things. But then there is a part of me that doesn't like order either or structure. And so, yeah, but I realized, yeah, Pisces does fit me pretty well. And three of my favorite people that I'm closest to, or that I love the most, are Pisces, and they all have their birthday like in the beginning of March, all in a row. So it starts with my daughter, and then my husband's the next day, and then my dear sweet little niece that I'm close with is the next day. And so we got to have all those birthdays at the beginning of the month, and the Pisces energy. And I've always loved Pisces, the dreamy Pisces and sensitive, moody Pisces. Yeah, gotta love Pisces and the fishes. But I wanted to read a little bit about energy flows and let's see. Oh, balance and the beginning and the end. I thought it was super interesting. The Zodiac Journey. This is from the Astrology Bible by Judy Hall. The zodiac is not simply the celestial path of the sun, it is a voyage through human experience. It represents the journey of the soul of the sun from its conception through childhood to old age. In Aries, at the journey's outset, the soul comes into our incarnation and takes on an ego. This is where I begins, the awareness of self. In Taurus, the soul takes on substance, becoming a physical body. Gemini is the point at which the soul seeks to communicate with others and express itself. In the fourth sign, Cancer, the overriding instinct is to nurture others, whereas in Leo, the fifth sign and the natural leader of the zodiac, the soul strives to shine and be recognized. Virgo encapsulates the urge we have to be of service to our fellow human beings and our daily routine. Halfway around the zodiac in Libra, the soul is ready to enter into a relationship to meet itself in another. This is where the soul learns to compromise and adapt. In Scorpio, the soul comes to recognize its creative and regenerative power. By the time it reaches Sagittarius, the soul is on a quest for meaning. In Capricorn, the drive is toward an ordered and stable society, and in humanitarian Aquarius, the urge is for the good of the whole. When the soul reaches Pisces, the soul's desire is to merge with the oneness from which it started, or to escape from the eternal round. I thought that was interesting. So the zodiac is not simply the celestial path of the sun, it is a voyage through the human experience. Just like the archetypes of the tarot, it's not, just these characters. It's like the fool's journey, it's the hero's journey, it's the human journey. Yeah. So the solar year, it takes the sun approximately a year to travel around the zodiac, spending about 30 days in each sign. The exact date of ingress and egress differ from year to year due to the cyclic adjustment that creates leap years. The sun's progression around the zodiac affects the structure of a chart. The sun always rises over the horizon at dawn, but the sign in which it appears to do so depends on the time of year. This explains why the ascendant, the sign that was rising over the horizon at the time of someone's birth, is different in spring and summer, even if the time of day is the same. Here's a little bit about the zodiac for you. And so Pisces is the end, and then Aries is the beginning. But there is also a 13th sign that we're now becoming aware of. And I've heard it called Phaeacus. And so then there are 13 moons in the year. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, like how our calendars have changed over our history. Yeah, our concepts of time and all of that, and how we record time and different things like that. It's kind of interesting to look into. And just like what was mentioned about the leap years and stuff, and how they need to make adjustments and calculations. So our calendar year actually might be a little bit off, like because of all that manipulation in certain ways. Some people think it's 8 years off, and that it's, yeah. So, but who knows, really? I guess it's just one of those mysteries and something we can all look into if we choose to. But here, this is about Aries, and I have been sharing about Aries because I had never really looked into it all that much, and I realized like what a actually valuable, potent player it is, like in my chart, and how it is about facing my own challenges and claiming my own power, claiming like certain aspects that I didn't know what to do with, or I didn't know like how to honor, how to direct, without like the models that I had been conditioned to use, like the passive aggressive dynamics and things like that. And so, yeah, it's really interesting being able to see some of these things and then choose something new and true for me. So Aries the ram. So the Aries glyph, or the symbol, has its basis in the ram's horns, symbolizing the assertive, thrusting nature of the sign and its associated ability to meet challenges head on. The dates are March 20th through April 19th. The ruler of Aries is Mars, and it's cardinal. The element is fire. The polarity is positive. Keyword: self-expression, assertion, forcefulness, urgency, initiative, courage, aggression, impulse, enterprise, passion, selfishness, leadership, egotism, combustible, foolhardy, survival instinct. And yeah, what else wants to be shared about Aries? How about the mind? Aries has a quick-witted mind that thrives on challenge. A serial innovator, Aries has the ability to give total attention to the moment, impulsive rather than rational. There's a tendency towards snap decisions, which are generally astute. Detail goes by the wayside as something with which others can concern themselves. This is a restless mind that is easily bored and likes to move on quickly. Aries has a good sense of humor, which finds expression in satirical wit, rarely at a loss for words. Aries is not beyond cruel sarcasm and sadistic wordplay either. Anyone found lacking is dealt with swiftly when Aries is present, which I would rather hold it in myself, like, than speak up for myself, or that's like what was safe for me. That's what was more safe for me as I learned that as a child, to keep my mouth shut in certain ways, until I was pushed so far that I had nothing to lose, and I had to assert my own identity and my own independence and my own will, or else I felt like I would be destroyed or overwhelmed by the devouring mother, which was my mother that meant well. She was overprotective, and she became a tyrant, and so there was certain patterns in my family. And yeah, and there's certain patterns in our culture, and there's certain patterns that are passed down through generations. And so just like becoming aware of certain things, and how like sometimes in order to protect ourselves or in order to adapt, we overcorrect in certain ways. But then what becomes adaptive in the child is maladaptive in the adult. And then we pass on our own crap to our own kids. And then they may overcorrect, or they just take on, yeah, what was dumped on them. And it's just interesting, like dissolving and breaking these patterns and these cycles that do not serve and do not empower and do not honor who we are. So, strengths. Aries is a courageous, enterprising pioneer who values freedom and frank discussion. This is a generous, enthusiastic person who makes things happen. Passionate Aries throws everything into work and play. Problems are faced head on with a view to finding innovative solutions. Weaknesses. Aries can be manipulative and less than truthful. Eternally restless, this sign lacks perseverance, wanting everything now. Projects and people may be abandoned halfway through. The Arian personality can be exceedingly selfish. If the risk-taking gets obsessive, Aries has no compunction about jeopardizing the security of others. The shadow. The Aries shadow incorporates the facilitating tendencies of its opposite sign Libra, leading to procrastination. Like Libra, the shadow has difficulty saying no. There isn't anything for a quiet life attitude that promises much but delivers little. And so, yeah, I kind of think that's interesting. So, the strengths. Yeah. And I can see that, like, yeah, courageous, enterprising pioneer. Like, I'm going to call on that, and I'm willing to, like, cultivate those strengths. The weaknesses, like, manipulation and stuff, I know how much I could manipulate myself, but I was never one to manipulate others overtly or consciously. If I did manipulate others, it was in an unconscious way, or like, learned behavior, through learned behavior or learned patterns of, oh, I'll do this for you if you do this for me, kind of thing. And that maybe that's where the passive aggressive stuff comes from, and where sometimes where needs weren't fulfilled and were expected to be filled, that's where like some of my old resentments come from. And like, yeah, and I know I've told my share of lies in my life, but like, honestly, truth's always been important to me. It's just like some of my own lies that I told myself I couldn't see through, and I couldn't see through that deception, through the self-deception. And so when I did finally see through my own self-deception, I was pretty hard on myself. And yeah, maybe I'm still in need of some forgiveness. And I can extend that forgiveness to others who are deceiving themselves. Yeah. But, projects were always abandoned, like when I lost my enthusiasm around them, when they weren't as novel anymore. But I hardly ever abandoned my people. I only abandoned my people when there was no other option. Like, I would stay miserable and stay with my people. But that's just something that I've broken out of now, like this year. Like, I don't need to salvage relationships just for sentimental reasons, or because I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. Like, if it's not serving me and it's not serving my well-being or my integrity and what's best for me, it's time to go. And like, that's also making peace with the fact that, like, sometimes we need to die to relationships, or certain relationships need to die. And then maybe there is a possibility of it being resurrected or reborn or renewed in certain ways. But I am actually feeling like it is okay to let them go and let them die. Like, my relationships die in a certain sense, because they're no longer viable. They're no longer sustainable. They're no longer reciprocal. They're no longer aligned. And so, yeah, that's just the difference that I see right now. So, just with that, there are like the positive and the negative, and just because something's positive doesn't mean that it's good, and just because something's negative doesn't mean that it's bad. So here's this little, it's like the positive and the negative ions and stuff. Negative ions are actually really helpful, and there's negative ions like that we need, like for stability and for support, and to help release and manage stress and all of that. So that's why like people love nature and the ocean and like say a forest or an orchard. There's a lot of negative ions there, and so you can look at that for health. Look into that. I encourage that. So the positive signs of the zodiac and the negative signs of the zodiac. So the positive signs are Aries, Gemini, Leo, Libra, Sagittarius, and Aquarius. The positive elements are fire and air. The keywords are masculine, yang or yang, active, extrovert, self-expressive, and dominant. So the positive personality, positive signs are extrovert, having a forceful personality that expresses itself spontaneously and energetically, orientated towards the external world. Positive personalities initiate and change. Emphasis on positive signs. If 6 or more planets are in positive signs, a person is more dominant and forceful in their self-expression regardless of the sun sign. And so I think I checked this out the other day, and I think I have 7 to 4, like a ratio of 7 to 4, positive, negative. Effect on the planets. Dynamic planets such as Mars and Uranus find positive energy conducive to easy expression. Neutral planets become more active and communication more direct. Placid planets may be energized in a positive sign depending on the nature of the sign. A preponderance of dynamic positive planets may attract aggression or chaos, or create a situation where someone feels invincible or becomes despotic. So the negative signs are Taurus, Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, and Pisces. The negative elements are earth and water. The keywords are feminine, yin, receptive, reflective, repressed, submissive, and introvert. The negative personality, negative signs are essentially inward-looking, compliant, and acquiescent. Geared towards conservation, negative signs receive feelings or impetus from others and reflect these back. Emphasis on negative signs. If 6 or more planets are in negative signs, a person is more introverted and repressed, making a positive sun much more reflective and introspective than would otherwise be the case. Effects on the planets. Negative signs slow the planets down. Dynamic planets find it harder to express themselves and may be experienced through projection onto others. When the moon or Venus are in negative signs, the emphasis is on feelings and emotions. Used constructively, this can lead to a greater self-understanding. Experienced unconsciously, emotions are acted out without thought. A preponderance of negative planets can indicate a person who feels powerless. So I just thought that was interesting. The positive and negative, which here's a perfect symbol of that. Is the yin yang, or the yin yang. Yeah, the light and the dark. Yeah, anywho, I just wanted to include that because it did relate, and I think it's super interesting. So I've always considered myself introverted and extremely, extremely shy, and never wanted to be like the center of attention, but I can be really animated when I'm passionate about something and when I feel like I'm in my own element. And so I have noticed that over the years, as I've gotten older, I've developed some more extroverted qualities, but I always felt like really, really introverted and really pulled inward. So it was easy for me to go inward and to live like in my inner world rather than the outer world. And that's why, reality I didn't quite care for so much, like the prescribed reality. And so I do have a rich imagination and a rich inner world. And it was my sanctuary, and my imagination, like really saved me and, kept me sane in a lot of ways. But it was really hard for me to speak up and to speak out and to speak up for myself or to speak up for others. And my first marriage really, really, really helped me learn some lessons with that, with boundaries and standing up for me and speaking up for me and claiming my love for me and claiming what I needed for me. And but it did teach me a lot about like passive aggressive dynamics and about addiction and manipulation. And I can honestly say in that relationship that I became someone that I really didn't like, because I did start to manipulate and tell a lot of lies. But it was just certain strategies and things that I wasn't conscious of. But I did like feel intense guilt because I knew like that it wasn't really me. But I kind of felt like, that's what I had to be in certain ways to get my own needs met. So like I did heal a lot of that and clear a lot of that toxicity through like the lessons that I've had with my second husband and our beautiful relationship. We've been able to dissolve a lot of old patterns from like, these same related wounds of not feeling like we were able to show up and be ourselves and speak our truth and like, just be at home within ourselves. And a part of that, like for me, like was claiming my right to be and my right to my self-expression, my freedom to be. And that's what really, really helped me in the beginning of this work in my alchemy. Like it's been about almost 5 years now. I realized how important expression and self-expression was for me, and giving myself that permission to free my own voice and speak my own truth and let my own wisdom emerge from my soul to help me like be whole, to help me heal and become whole. And so there's just some interesting things. So a couple days ago I opened up my Rise Sister Rides book and flipped open the book. It landed on this page: set your soul's voice free. While she was just one girl, her voice was carried by many. And then it just repeats many, 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 all the way down the page. Set your soul's voice free. Now is the time to release your voice, to share your song, expressing all of the things your soul has to say, to be heard and to speak freely. Clear the chimney of your soul so those around you can hear the music you came to share. Let the sharing of your voice be your own medicine, cathartic. And while you're at it, offer it up as medicine for those who lack the courage to do the same. The days of persecution that your soul remembers are over. This does not mean that everyone will understand you or agree with you or even like what you have to bring in. The more daring and true to your message, the more likely you will attract the attention of those who are not yet ready to hear you. But at least you will no longer be holding your magic inside. When you share your voice, those who can hear you, who are waiting to hear what you have to say, will flock to your side and sing along, drinking up what you have to share like nectar, cheering you on as you guide the way. There are many who will be energetically activated simply by your decision to share, your voice igniting something indescribable in them. Set your soul's voice free. Rise, sister, rise. How are you being called to share your voice in a bigger way? If you weren't afraid, what would you do? And I just opened this to your life is your message, and tell the truth about your life. What would happen if one woman told the truth about her life? The world would split open. Muriel Rukeyser. If you feel a certain way, rest assured that there are millions who feel the same. When I was young, I thought I was alone in my desire to bring about this shift in consciousness and felt petrified to do it. I tried everything I could to overcome this fear before sharing my writing and voice. Then, eventually, I realized that my fear was part of my story and that if I felt this way, then others did too. Slowly dipping my little toe in the water, I began to share my writing. Eventually, the words turned into chapters and chapters into books. When you tell the truth about your life, the good and the bad, you no longer have anything to hide. You free yourself. You show the world who you really are, and your people flock to you. The more honestly you share your voice and embrace your weirdness, the easier it is for your sisters to find you. If you keep your voice hidden, waiting for the fear to subside, your people won't be able to find you. When you are honest about your life, you give someone else permission to be honest about theirs. You give up the exhausting act of pretending you have it all together, which none of us actually do. When you share your story, you set yourself free and others free. When you are honest about your life, you give yourself more space to enjoy it. Messy bits and all, and the messy bits are actually the most interesting bits anyway. Rise, sister, rise. How can you be more honest about your life? Your life is your message. We are all connected. The only way to heal others is by first healing yourself. In my Work, Your Light online course, I take my students through a process called Your Life is Your Message, where we look at key moments of their story and the things they needed to hear at those moments. It never ceases to amaze me how much this process works. Our life really is our message, and it is in letting the healing happen through us that we are able to have a healing impact on the world. Your message is the thing that you most needed to hear. That's true. When we devote our lives to rising, we are really committing to being the person we wish we had to guide us. When I write my books, I am not writing to convince someone else of a certain way, but to the part of me that needed to hear what I now have to say. And because we are all connected, there are others out there who will resonate with that too. Your life is your message. Practice your life as your message. Get an A4 piece of paper and place it horizontally. Draw a line from left to right. This is your timeline. The far left is the day you were born, and the far right is current time. Plot out significant moments in your life, moments that stand out. They can be little, perhaps a happy day with your family at the beach, or huge, such as the death of your mother. Go through each moment and ask yourself, what did you need to hear at that moment, and write it down. Once you have completed all the moments, look back over your notes and see if you can find a common thread. Wow, that is interesting because that's come up in 2 other ways this week, and that's the first time I've read those 2 pages because I just opened it after I read my first little sharing. So that's interesting because in Clarissa Pinkola Estes' Women Who Run with the Wolves, 2 weeks ago, there was something called Descanos, and that was like to mark a death, and she had suggested to write out a timeline to show like where all the little deaths had been, and like the rebirths, and like, or the little deaths had been where we could now lay those things to rest and go back and honor and release like those things to clear up space for the new life to grow through. And then I had been listening to 2 podcasts yesterday. I can't remember what his name is. I think it is Seth Pierzanski. And I saw him on 2 different interviews yesterday and I really resonated with what he had to say. And that's like one of the things that he said when he was in prison. He actually did the same thing where he wrote down like everything that he could remember and like did his own timeline to see if he could find certain common threads. And so I think that's a good exercise and a good practice for me because it's come up a couple different times for me. And so I'll choose that love for me and play with that and work through that and work with that and see what it has for me. But that's pretty interesting. So Rise Sister Rise by Rebecca Campbell, and super appreciate that wisdom. And there was a lot of animal companions and totems that were coming up in the last week popping out to play to offer their wisdom and their gifts of healing. And I wanted to go through a couple of different animals and the gifts that they have that relate to this transition and regeneration and creating and releasing and excavating and integrating, becoming whole and healing. But maybe we'll see if we have time, because there is definite I just have to share some of this story about the handless maiden, because it is such a beautiful and potent story, and wow, there's a lot of it that I still get to process and work with and explore. It was just so amazing. But yesterday I was just writing down a few things, and a couple of different quotes just kind of sparked some of my attention, so I just wrote them down. And it says, "No matter how difficult and painful it may be, nothing sounds as good to the soul as the truth." Martha Beck. "If you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always gotten. A real decision is measured by the fact that you've taken a new action. If there's no new action, then you haven't really decided." Unknown. "When we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard or welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid, so it is better to speak." Audre Lorde. "And the day came when the risk to remain tight in the bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. So bloom and blossom and let go and allow the unfolding." And so there's a tale of the handless maiden, but there was also another story that came up that was super, super beautiful, and it's a little bit shorter. And it's right before the handless maiden. And this is the chapter, Battle Scars, Membership in the Scar Clan. And it's called The Woman with the Hair of Gold. "There was a very strange but beautiful woman with long golden hair as fine as spun gold. She was poor and without mother or father, and lived in the woods alone, and wove upon a loom made of black walnut boughs. A brute who was the son of the coal burner tried to force her into marriage, and in an effort to buy him off, she gave him some of her golden hair. But he did not know or care that it was spiritual, not monetary. The gold that she gave him. So when he sought to trade her hair for merchandise in the marketplace, people jeered at him and thought him mad. Enraged, he returned by night to the woman's cottage, and with his own hands murdered her and buried her body by the river. For a long time, no one noticed that she was missing. No one inquired of her health, of her hearth or her health. But in her grave, the woman's golden hair grew and grew. The beautiful hair curled and spiraled upward through the black soil, and it grew, looping and twirling more, and up, until her grave was covered by a field of swaying golden reeds. Shepherds cut the curly reeds to make flutes, and when they played them, the tiny flutes sang and would not stop singing. Here lies the woman with golden hair, murdered and in her grave, killed by the son of the coal burner, because she wished to live. And that is how the man who took the life of the woman with golden hair was discovered and brought to justice, so that those who live in the wild woods of the world, like we ourselves do, were safe again once more." So while this tale overtly gives the usual instruction to be careful in lonely places out in the woods, the inner message is profound, and that is the life force of the beautiful wilder woman, personified by her hair, continues to grow and to live and to emanate conscious knowing, even though overtly silenced and buried. The leitmotifs of this tale are probably fragments of a much larger and more ancient death and resurrection story centering around a female godhead. This segment is beautiful and valuable, and additionally it tells us something about the nature of secrets, and even, perhaps, what it is that is killed off in the psyche when a woman's life is not properly valued. In this tale, the murder of the woman who lives out in the woods is the secret. She represents a core, Kore, the woman who will not marry. This aspect of the female psyche represents that which wishes to keep to herself alone. This aspect of the female psyche represents that which wishes to keep to herself alone. Definitely know that part. This is mystical and solitary in a good way, for the core is taken up with the sorting and weaving of ideas, thoughts, and endeavors. It is this self-contained wilder woman that is most injured by trauma or by the keeping of a secret, this integral sense of self that needs not have much around itself in order to be happy, this heart of the female psyche who weaves in the forest on the black walnut loom and is at peace there. No one in the fairy tale asks about the absence of this vital woman. This is not unusual in fairy tales or in real life. The families of the dead women in Bluebeard do not come seeking their daughters either. Culturally, this needs no interpretation. Sadly, we all know what it means, and many women, too many, understand that lack of inquiry firsthand. Often the woman who carries secrets meets with the same response. Though people may perceive that at the center her heart is pierced, they may accidentally or purposely go blind to the evidence of her injury. But part of the miracle of the wild psyche is that no matter how badly a woman is killed, no matter how injured, her psychic life continues, and it rises above ground, where in soulful circumstances it will sing its way up and out again. Then wrongful harm done is consciously apprehended, and the psyche begins restoration. It's an interesting idea, is it not, that a woman's life force can continue to grow even though she is seemingly without life. It is a promise that under even the most anemic conditions, the wildish life force will keep our ideas alive and developing, albeit only for a while, underground. Life will pry and scrabble its way above ground in time. This living force will not let the matter rest until the buried woman's whereabouts and circumstances are revealed. As with the shepherds in the story, this involves drawing a breath and putting the soul breath, or pneuma, through the reeds, in order to know the true state of affairs in the psyche and what must be done next. This is the work of crying out. Then the digging work follows. While some secrets are strengthening, for instance, those used as part of a strategy in order to gain a competitive goal, or those happy ones kept just for the pleasure of savoring them, the secrets of shame are very different as be-ribboned metal versus a bloody knife. The latter must be brought up, witnessed by compassionate humans under generous conditions. When a woman keeps a shameful secret, it is horrifying to see the enormous amounts of self-blame and self-torture she endures. All the blame and torture that were promised to descend upon the woman if she tells the secret does so anyway. Even though she has told no one, it all attacks her from within. The wildish woman cannot live with this. Shameful secrets cause a person to become haunted. She cannot sleep, for a shaming secret is like a cruel barbed wire that catches her across the gut as she tries to run free. The secrets of shame are destructive, not only to a woman's mental health, but to her relationships with the instinctive nature. Wild woman digs things up, throws them into the air, and chases them around. She does not bury and forget. If she buries at all, she remembers what and where, and it will not be long before she has disinterred it again. Keeping shame a secret is profoundly disturbing to the psyche. Secrets erupt in dream material, and an analyst must often go beyond the manifest and sometimes even the archetypal content of a dream in order to see that it is in fact broadcasting the very secret the dreamer dare not tell aloud. There are many dreams that, when analyzed, are understood to be about immense and extensive feelings that the dreamer in real life is unable to cry out. Some of these dreams pertain to secrets. Some of the most common dream images I've seen are lights, electric and otherwise, flickering and are going out. Dreams in which the dreamer becomes ill from eating something. Those in which the dreamer cannot move out of danger, and those wherein the dreamer tries to call out but no voice issues forth. No voice issues forth. Remember Canto Hondo, the deep song? Hambre del Alma, the star of soul? In time, these two forces, through dreams and the woman's own wild life force, rise to the surface of the psyche and break out the necessary cry, the cry that frees. A woman finds her voice then. She sings out, cries out the secret, and is heard. Her psychic footing will be restored. In the tradition of my family's ethnic and religious practices, the core meaning of this fairy tale and others similar to it are medicines to be applied to wounds which are kept secret. In prayerful, curanderism, curanderisma. They are considered encouragement, advice, and resolution. What stands behind the formation of fairy tale wisdom is the fact that for both men and women, woundings to the self, soul, and psyche through secrets and otherwise are part of most persons' lives. Neither can the subsequent scarring be avoided, but there is help for these injuries, and absolutely there is healing. There are general wounds, and there are wounds that are specific to males, and there are wounds that are specific to females. Abortion leaves a scar. Miscarriage makes a scar. Losing a child of any age makes a scar. Sometimes being close to another person lays down scar tissue. There may be extensive scarring as the result of naive choices, from being entrapped, as well as from right but difficult choices. There are as many shapes of scars as there are types of psychic woundings. Repressing secret material surrounded by shame, fear, anger, guilt, or humiliation effectively shuts down all other parts of the unconscious that are near the site of the secret. It's like shooting an anesthetic into, say, a person's ankle in order to do a surgery. Much of the leg above and below the ankle is also affected by the anesthesia and no longer has feeling. This is how secret keeping works in the psyche. It is a constant IV drip of anesthetic that numbs far more than the area at issue. No matter what kind of secret, no matter how much pain is involved in keeping the secret, the psyche is affected in the same way. Here is one example. One woman whose husband 40 years earlier had committed suicide 3 months after they were married was urged by his family to not only hide the evidence of his major depressive illness, but also her deep emotional grief and anger from that time. As a result, she developed a dead zone regarding his anguish, her anguish, as well as her rage at the cultural stigma attached to the entire event. She allowed the husband's family to betray her by agreeing to their requirement that she never reveal the fact of their cruel treatment of her husband over the years. And each year on the anniversary of her husband's suicide, there was dead silence from the family. No one called to say, "How are you feeling? Would you like some company? Do you miss him? I know you must. Shall we go out and do something together?" The woman dug her husband's grave once more and buried her grief alone year after year. Eventually, she began to avoid other days of commemoration, anniversaries, and birthdays, including her own. The dead zone spread from the center of the secret outward, not only overtly covering commemorative events, but then stretching to celebratory events and even beyond. All of these familial and friendship events were disparaged by the woman, who overtly considered them a waste of time. To her unconscious, however, they were empty gestures, for no one had come close to her in times of despair. Her chronic grief, that shameful secret keeping, had eaten into the area of her psyche that governed relatedness. Most often we wound others where or very close to where we have been wounded ourselves. If a woman desires, however, to retain all her instincts and abilities to move freely within her psyche, she can reveal her secret or secrets to one trustworthy human being and recount them as many times as necessary. A wound is usually not disinfected once and then forgotten, but is tended to and washed several times while it heals. When a secret is finally told, the soul needs more response than, "Oh really? That's too bad." Or, "Oh well, life is tough," from both the teller and the listener. The teller has to try not to depreciate or deprecate the matter. And it is a blessing if the listener is a person who can listen with a full heart and can wince, shiver, and feel a ray of pain cross his or her own heart and not collapse. Part of healing from a secret is to tell it so that others are moved by it. In this way, a woman begins to recover from shame by receiving the succor and tending that she missed during the original trauma. Part of healing from a secret is to tell it so that others are moved by it. In this way, a woman begins to recover from shame by receiving the succor and tending she missed during the original trauma. In small and confidential groups of women, I bring about this exchange by asking the women to gather together and to bring photographs of their mothers, aunts, sisters, mates, grandmothers, and other women who are significant to them. We line up all the pictures. Some are cracked, some peeling, some damaged by water or coffee cup rings, some have been torn in two and taped back together, some are wrapped in glassine tissue. Many have beautiful archaic writing on the back saying, "Oh, you kid," or "Love you forever," "Love forever," or "This is me with Joe in Atlantic City," or "Here I am with my groovy roommate," or "These are the girls from the factory." I suggest each woman begin by saying, "These are the women of my bloodline," or "These are the women from whom I inherited." Women look at these pictures of their female family and friends and with a deep compassion begin to tell the stories and secrets of each as they know them. The big joy, the big hurt, the big travail, the big triumph in each woman's life. Throughout this time we spend together, there are many moments when we can go no further, for many, many tears. Oh, for many, many tears lift many, many boats out of dry dock, and off we all sailed away together for a while. What is valuable here is a true cleaning of the feminine laundry once and for all. The common prescription against washing the family laundry in public is ironic because usually the dirty laundry does not ever get washed with the family either. Down in the darkest corner of the cellar, the family's dirty laundry just lies there stiff with its secrets forever. The insistence on keeping a thing private is poison. In reality, it means that a woman has no support around her to deal with the issues that cause her pain. Many of the personal secret stories of women are the kind that family and friends are inadequate to discuss. They disbelieve or attempt to make light or bypass them, and they truly have understandable reason to do so. If they do discuss them, candle them, work with them, they would have to share the grief with the woman. No standing about composed, no "oh well" and then silence. No, we must try to keep busy and not dwell on such things. Instead, were a woman's mate, family, community to share the grief over the death of the golden-haired woman, they would all have to take their place in the cortege. They would all have to weep at the grave. No one could wriggle out of it, and it would be very hard on them. When women give more thought to the matter of their own secret shame than other members of their family or community, they alone consciously suffer. The psychological purpose of family to pull together never occurs, yet the wild nature demands that one's environ be cleansed of irritants and threats, that matters which oppress be reduced as much as possible. So it is usually a matter of time before a woman calls up her courage from the soul bones, cuts herself a golden reed, and plays the secret in her own strong voice. But here is what to do about the shame-filled secrets based on the study of archetypal advice extrapolated from dozens of fairy tales such as Bluebeard, Mr. Fox, Robber Bridegroom, Mary Colthane, and others, where the heroine refuses to keep the secret in one way or another, and so is finally freed to live fully alive. See what you see and say it to someone. It is never too late. If you feel you cannot say it aloud, write it down for them. Choose a person whom you instinctively believe to be trustworthy. The can of worms you are worried about opening is far better off being out there than festering inside yourself. If you prefer, seek a therapist who knows how to deal with secrets. This will be a person of mercy with no particular drum to bang about right and wrong, who knows the difference between guilt and remorse and about the nature of grieving and resurrection of spirit. Whatever the secret is, we understand that it is now part of our work for life. Redemption heals a once open wound. But there will be a scar nevertheless. With changes of weather, the scar can and will ache again. This is the nature of true grief. For years, classical psychology of all types erroneously thought that grief was a process that you did once, preferably over a year's period of time, and then it was done with. And anyone who was unable or unwilling to complete this over the prescribed time period had something rather wrong with them. But we know now what humans have known instinctively for centuries, that certain hurts and harms and shames can never be done being grieved, the loss of a child through death or relinquishment being one of the most, if not the most enduring. In a study of diaries written over many years' time, Paul C. Rosenblatt, Ph.D., found that people may recover from the worst of their soul grief in the first year or two after a tragedy, depending on a person's support systems and so forth, but afterward the person continues to experience periods of active grieving. Although the episodes become farther and farther apart in time and shorter in duration, which each recurrence carries close to the same intensity of gut-staggering grief as the first occasion. This data helps us to understand the normalcy of long-term grief. When a secret is not told, grieving goes on anyway and for life. The keeping of secrets interferes with the natural self-healing hygiene of psyche and spirit. This is one more reason to say our secrets. Telling and grieving resurrect us from the dead zone. They allow us to leave the death cult of secrets behind. We can grieve and grieve hard and come out of it tear-stained rather than shame-stained. We can come out deepened, fully acknowledged, and filled with new life. Wild woman will hold us while we grieve. She is the instinctual self. She can bear our screaming, our wailing, our wishing to die without dying. She will put the best medicine in the worst places. She will whisper and murmur in our ears. She will feel pain for our pain. She will bear it. She will not run away. Although there will be scars and plenty of them, it is good to remember that in tensile strength and ability to absorb pressure, a scar is stronger than skin. And then the next little part is the scapegoat. And I thought that this was interesting too, where she, the author, made herself a scapegoat for all the times that she was made a scapegoat. And at first she thought it was just going to be like kind of a simple thing, like with just different words, but then it ended up becoming like an incredible work of art, like with a dress that had a long train that needed people to hold it. And she thought at first that like she would just make this coat and then burn it, but then actually after she was done, she was like, no, I got to keep this now. This is a good reminder for me. And I think, like, yeah, she had actually encouraged other women to make their own scapegoats, and they ended up loving them just as much because it was such a great demonstration and symbol for their healing and for what they had come through and endured. I think she says, at first I made a scapegoat for myself. It soon became so heavy that I needed a chorus of muses to carry the train. So, let's see, So I found this also to be true of the women I worked with. They never wanted to destroy their scapegoats once they had made them. They wanted to keep them forever. The nastier and the gorier, the better. Sometimes we also call them battle coats, for they are proof of the endurance, the failures, and the victories of individual women and their kinswomen. It is also a good idea for women to count their ages not by years, but by battle scars. How old are you? People sometimes ask me. I am 17 battle scars old, I say, and usually people don't flinch and rather happily begin to count up their own battle scars' ages accordingly. As the Lakota painted glyphs on animal hides to record the events of winter, and the Nahuatl, the Maya, and the Egyptians had their codices recording the great events of the tribes, the wars, the triumphs, women have their scapegoats, their battle coats. I wonder what our granddaughters and great-granddaughters will think of our lives recorded thusly. I hope it will all have to be explained to them. Let there be no mistake about it, for you have earned it by the hard choices of your life. If you are asked your nationality, ethnic origin, or bloodline, smile enigmatically and say Scar Clan. And then the next chapter is chapter 14, which is Initiation in the Underground Forest, the Handless Maiden. And it's from Women Who Run with the Wolves, Clarissa Pinkola Estes. That story of the golden-haired woman in that little section just wanted to be included. And that was not my ego's plan, but that's just what happened. And I can see now why, like, that was all related and connected in certain ways to exactly, yeah, what I just shared. And that's, like, the messages that I needed for me, like, right now in this space, in this stage of my healing. And I'd like to offer it to anyone else who's listening and willing to receive and open to receive for their own process and their own ways of healing, their own, through their own ways. And so, yeah, that does bring it back to the ram, Aries ram. I'll just share, I wrote a little bit down about the ram the other day because I've been working with this energy and just kind of going deeper and seeing where it leads. And so the ram teaches how to bring forth powers of the mind and imagination to seek out new heights and adventures. The ram symbolizes a great force and power, and it's about seeking new beginnings. Ram can teach how to assert ourselves in new areas. It's about sensitivity and perseverance, power and strength, great mental activity, curiosity, active imagination that must be fueled to become stronger or to become developed. And, creativity, stimulation of mental faculties, inspiration, and the energy to act upon it. So to care. putting that love into action. They have toes that pinch, and like, so that they can get a grasp on these little tiny openings when they're doing their rock climbing or their mountain climbing. Sometimes there's just like the tiniest little spaces, but they only need a 2-inch space to get a foothold. And so I think that's interesting too, that those came up, the toes, the toes that pinch. And so reminding us that small openings can be secured if acted upon. Let's trust in our ability to land safely on our feet and initiate new endeavors. And Ram can teach the art of balance. And so that's pretty awesome. And then another animal totem that came up for me was the wren, the bird, W-R-E-N. So, and that was kind of fun to read about. It's a little bird, resourcefulness and boldness. This bird is sacred to the earth gods and goddesses, and legends say that this bird stole fire from the sun and brought it to the earth, giving it its short cocked tail feathers. So it was also in myth and legend said to be the pet bird of the Virgin Mary. This bird is resourceful and adaptable. It nests close to the ground or upon the ground. It builds its nests on the ground. The male builds the nests, and it will build like several dummy nests to distract like the predators and whatnot. And also, like, it's interesting, it'll have like all these different nests, and then the female actually chooses the one that she wants, and then the rest of them are dummy nests. So it's kind of funny, like there's choices and options. So this bird is known by its voice, and it sings from daylight to dark. It's very, very, very vocal, and it seems to have the voice of a much larger bird. So it sings from daylight to dark, as if overflowing with confidence. It will not hesitate to confront any threatening bird or animal. The medicine of the wren can teach us to use what's available and how to use the most effective means to build within our own environments. And so, I thought that was pretty great and pretty awesome to include today. And there are several more that were coming up this last week, and they all had to do with the life, death, rebirth cycles, and transformation and regeneration. And it wasn't like things that I picked because I knew they corresponded. They were just animals that either showed up in my space or that emerged through someone else's card reading, and I knew that it related to me, or I had dreams about them, or there was different stories that I came across that were profound and gifts, synchronicities for me. They were within those stories. And so, like, just popping out to play and just paying attention to those things, like when they do, like, pop out to play and have messages for me and gifts for me to receive if I'm willing to receive them. And so some of those animals, without going into like all of them, but like just to give an idea of some of the energy that's available and accessible to call upon, and to bless, praise, receive, and celebrate. So this week is the goose. The call of the quest travels to legendary places, and it's like all about stories, myths, fairy tales, navigation, and imagination. And then there's the raven, magic, flight of the spirit, about courage, change and consciousness, awakening. Raven brings in the new state of wellness from the void of the great mystery and the field of plenty. Magic is in the air. Don't try to figure it out. It's the unknown at work, accepted as a gift. And so, I thought that was cool. Crow is all about cosmic law and balance and shape-shifting, doubling. Keeper of the sacred records, omens of change. An omen of change merges light and darkness, seeing the inner and outer reality, power of the voice. crow looks through one eye and then through the other eye. The cross-eyed, looking into the future, and foresight, insight, personal will, integrity, and truth. And then another one that came up was eagle. Eagle is the creative force, the great spirit, love, vision, freedom, joy, illumination, the creative force. Nourish your soul and wisdom. Connection to the divine, ability to live in the realm of spirit and yet remain connected and balanced within the realm of earth. Eagle soars and is quick to observe expansiveness within the overall patterns of life. Represents a state of grace achieved through hard work, understanding, and a completion of the tests of initiation which result in taking of one's personal power, or claiming one's personal power. Take heart, gather courage. The universe is presenting you an opportunity to soar above the mundane of your life, the mundane. Looking at overall tapestry to broaden your sense of self. Soar and see the beauty. Then also dragonfly to help with the illusion and symbolizes change. Messages of wisdom and enlightenment. Communications with elemental realms. Nature spirits. Break down the illusions you have held that restrict your actions or ideas. What habits get to change. And horse. So horse was coming up in different ways. And there is a lot to horse. There's so much that could be said about horse and shared about horse. Horse is all about power, balance, and respect. And then there are all the different colors of horses, the black stallion, the yellow stallion, the red stallion, and the white stallion. And they all have their own qualities and gifts and medicine gifts. And so the black stallion from the void where answer lives, the power of entering the darkness and finding the light. The yellow stallion is east where illumination lives, to help teach and illuminate others. Red stallion is playful, the joys of balancing work and heavy medicine with joyful experience of play. With humor, you can better hold the attention of those who you're seeking to teach. Yeah, so good reminder for medicine and being playful. White stallion, the message carrier for all the other horses. Wisdom and power, the embodiment of a balanced medicine shield. No abuse of power will ever lead to wisdom. Humility, an instrument of the Great Spirit. Power is not given lightly. Responsibility and balance. And so one other thing that connected with horse that that really struck me this week was a couple days ago. I was listening to Lee J. McCloskey, and he said something about how the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are the archetypes of death, temperance, the tower, and judgment. And so I'll just leave it there with that food for thought. Oh, but there's 2 more that are perfect, actually. There's 2 more here. So, yeah, being frustrated and stuff, and I was just like, oh, you bullheaded asshole. And so it's like a bullheaded ass. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to look up ass. Because asshole keeps coming up. And ass. Like, you stubborn ass. You stubborn fucking asshole. You stubborn ass. Like, you donkey. So, and that was interesting. So, a bullheaded ass. LOL, what class? So I looked up ass in animal speak as well, and she has some interesting qualities. So the ass is associated with Saturn in astrology, the strict teacher. So I've been getting my ass kicked in those, in certain places, like, yeah, with these lessons, but it's like, it's all for my growth and my highest good. And it's a challenge that I am choosing to face head on. And so, yeah, it's kind of funny in certain ways. So, the ass can teach us about our stubbornness and help us get out of our own way. And know when it is a time to dig our heels in and say no further. The buck stops here. But also to assist us, in learning our lessons, a symbol of death and the life after death. Wisdom and humility. Ass can teach us wisdom and humility. And so, our inner asshole can teach us the same. Patience, victorious transfiguration. Promise of awakening wisdom and the approach of new opportunities of even greater work and even higher wisdom. And so that's ass. And then bull. We'll finish off with bull because of all the bullshit. All the bullshit and the fertilization that has within it. So, bull, fertility. And it's like a fertility through sacrifice because the cow is known as like fertility as well, and renewal and all of that, because we didn't have to kill the cow to get nourishment from it. But through the bull was actually like more known through that sacrifice, fertility through that sacrifice. So to the Assyrians, the bull was born of the sun, associated with Osiris, sometimes depicted with the head of a bull. Taurus and the earth, material possessions, implies a fertilization of the earth, union of the masculine and the feminine, the male and the female, fertility and union. The bull can help us understand how to work with the mundane aspects of fertility and the relationships necessary for it. Stability without stubbornness. So that's really funny, that the ass has to do with stubbornness, and the bull said it was stability without stubbornness. And so I think those are some great allies, totems, and companions and teachers for me to work with this week. And so, yeah, I hope my sharing serves, and I hope it resonates, and if it can help anyone with their own process to claim their own fullness and their own wholeness, and voice like what needs to be said, and excavate and extract and extricate their own secrets to assist in their own healing. Like that would be icing on the cake. But like I know how potent and how amazing and how beautiful it's been for me to be able to choose this work for myself and for my whole being, and to be able to share it and to offer it and to keep myself accountable and to learn different things about myself as I'm sharing and as I'm authentically vulnerable. And there's one more thing about silly BS, but like isn't there's going to always be BS out there, I guess. Because I think some of us, there's just a part of us that likes that challenge, or I guess, or that wants to know itself. And so I guess that's what we get to do if we so choose. So thanks for being here. Thanks for being love. Thanks for being dear. And hopefully we can all get clear and illuminate like those dark places inside that we've needed to care. We can show up and care, love in action, and choose that for ourselves. All right. Love y'all. Be well. Okay. See you next time.